What's up, you dirt bags? Luke and I are back in studio for a bonus episode. It's the episode that nobody asked for, but we're going to give it to you anyway, because Luke has gone through some big changes, and we're going to back it up a little bit and kind of walk through it. So before we dive into that, Luke, welcome, man. It's good to see you again.
Cheers, brother. Welcome back to the studio. I don't know. I got a drink here, but my background is blurred. So
there you go. And I'm on coffee because you and I are getting ready for a huge Dirtbags University tonight. We're currently filming this on Monday, and it's our first Dirtbags University. It's our webinar. We're going to roll out this model, education based. Like, I couldn't be more excited, and we're getting a huge response from the Dirtbags and Dirtbagettes listening too.
We got 30 fucking signups, dude. Hell yeah. What was our turnaround time? When did we put this out? Was this Sunday, like 2 days?
It was barely, I don't even think it was a full 2 days. It was like a day and a half. So shout out to Brandon on our team, producer Brandon, cranking out some graphics for us. I tried to do a botch job on the website and throw something together because Zoom wasn't working. So, just the whole team coming together. And I just couldn't be more excited for it's $10 to get in. So I think that's another piece is like, okay, if we're spending $10, we might as well like pay attention kind of thing.
Yep.
But we've got a full slate of speakers. I mean, it's going to be a hell of a night.
It's a pretty pumped up lineup. Like, it's in the terms of stacking, it's definitely stacked.
Oh yeah. She's stacked. And because it's, you and I will kind of host the webinar, and then we've got Taylor White from Ken White Construction, Dylan from D2 Contracting, and James from Innovative Lawn and Landscape. So just powerhouses in the industry, and kind of from different areas too, and different areas in their business. So I think that's going to be electric. But so far the 30 people have signed up all over the country. Like, I think out of the 30, it's not all just like North Dakota and Ontario and Michigan. It's like, I think we've covered like 15 or 20 states right now.
That's a good reach. I like that.
So that'll be cool. Yeah. What's up?
Bonus on that too. We finally got our bank account set up. After, what is it? It's been like 6 months. I think we've been trying to do
longer.
That.
I think longer. Yeah.
Somebody finally accepted us. So shout out to Bell Bank.
Bell Bank, you're the king. I mean, they're set up in Fargo and Arizona, so it's like perfect. We can both go in the branch and hit them up. But they're that small town bank feel, but they're actually gigantic.
They're really big bank. So,
but yeah, so Dirtbags University, keep an eye out for it. We'll probably plan on doing one a month, and we'll keep it super exclusive. So it's like, we're not going to have the recording out after. So basically it just encourages you to show up, pay the $10 or whatever the cost is, and then dive in, learn, educate yourself, but then come with questions. So it's going to be really cool. I know, Luke, you and I have big plans for it. We can see this being like a huge meetup spot for contractors of all different sizes and all different areas. And I mean, just a great place to educate yourself, but also have a couple drinks and have a good time.
Amen to that. I'm starting a little early, but that's okay. Usually when I start early, the conversation flows a little easier and off to the races. So
that's all right. I can take over too if it gets a little sloppy.
That's okay.
But yeah, so the point of this podcast, and like I said, bonus episode, Luke, obviously you own Black Iron Dirt. Most people know that. Most people know that you own Western Excavation in Bismarck, North Dakota. What a lot of people don't know is that just this last Friday, you had a full-time job the entire time. And so now you are, I guess, officially self-employed, which you were the whole time, but now you don't have this job. And I know I have, great things to say about, U Motors and where you're working at, but walk us through. I mean, we'll start with your last day on Friday, and then we'll kind of go back to the beginning of Black Iron, and we'll kind of build it out through there.
Okay. So last day would have been Friday. What day was that? Friday, October, whatever day before the 24th. I can't remember offhand. But I March 18th of 2018 would have been my first day there. So I was a little over 4 years. That would have been my 5th year there. But yeah, man, kind of bittersweet. I mean, not really emotional, but like the atmosphere definitely changed to where like I texted, obviously the couple that owns it, Jill and Kale, texted them, thanked them for everything. My general manager, him and I had a pretty good heart to heart because they taught me a lot of what I know now. It's weird how it kind of correlates, but like the sales side, the customer side, follow-ups, things like that, I learned from U Motors. So I got to go credit that all to them. So I mean, it was definitely bittersweet, but I'm anxious to kind of get out and finally have some time because before I had zero time, like absolutely zero.
Okay. I mean, and you're not even being dramatic because most people listening had no idea that you had this full-time job on top of Black Iron, Western Excavation, having a little girl, getting engaged, and the dirt bags. I mean, the dirt bags is rocketing to the moon right now. But so I guess, did you not tell people on purpose, or is it just kind of thing like it never really came up? I mean, because even in our podcast, like we didn't even talk much about it up until this last podcast. We talked a little bit about it, and that's what sparked the idea for this bonus episode, just to dive into it. But was that something that you did on purpose, like just not really talk much about, or is it just kind of what it is?
It was kind of both, honestly. Like I didn't really put it out there that I also had a full-time job just because like on my social medias, if somebody was looking me up, I didn't want, and maybe it's bad to say, but I didn't want them to look at and say, oh, well, this guy's got a full-time job. Maybe he's not very serious, or maybe he can't do what they say they can do, right? As far as like a business. So I tried to keep them as separate as possible. I know, through the years, I ended up doing a lot of work for a lot of the people that, because I was more of the marine sales guy there. I sold a lot of boats, and that was pretty much it. So I ended up getting really good connections with people within the industry, and then I ended up doing work for them after. But as far as like, Dylan didn't even know that I worked at U Motors. Like, dude, yeah, no, I just never brought it up. I remember when like he first started, like he didn't even know, and he didn't really ask. We just kind of did our own thing, and he asked what was going on. And I remember he texted me one time and he was like, dude, how long are you still working at U Motors? And I was like, yep.
Oh, wait.
And he's like, how long have you been doing that? And I was like, about like 3 years now. So that was like a big shock, but it's kind of like how Will doesn't tell his name. Will, what is it? Will, from
Schuler.
Will Power Excavation. Yeah, Will Schuler. He didn't say his age. I didn't really advertise that I worked at U Motors just for the credit piece, or the credibility piece.
Yeah, dude. And I 100% feel that too, because so when I started Phaser, it took me 2 years to go full time. So I've only been full time at Phaser for 1 year, it was August of 2021. But so I didn't go around saying like, oh, like I'm doing both of these things. Like I've got this full time job. I'm trying to do things on the nights and weekends. But I knew that after the fact, I could talk about it because it's like, it is a grind. But I think it's, and this goes in a lot to just marketing your business, but I think you always want to be bigger, feel bigger than you actually are. And it's not to deceive anyone or to lie to anyone. It's just to show them like it gives you a better chance of getting that opportunity. And once you have that opportunity, knock it out of the park, and then it's smooth sailing from there. But to get that opportunity, I agree, especially in your line of work, they probably don't want to hire you if they're seeing you're working full time and you've got your little skid steer doing side projects on Saturday night or whatever. But you also did have much more than just that, because it probably taught you how to build a system and build a business that this has to run when I'm at work. So let's rewind all the way back. So, you started Black Iron. How did you first get started? Because you had a full-time job. Were you doing all the work, or did you bring somebody on right away?
Okay, so all the way back, I think, the day I like started would have been, I think it was like March 18th of 2018 is when I like filed for like my LLC. And I think the day after is when I texted Kevin, my sales guy, and was like, yep, I want a skid steer. I was recently unemployed. I didn't have any money in the bank. I know I talked about it on Aaron's podcast, but I had to borrow money from my mom to buy a trailer to move the skid steer. So like there was no plan of action. There was nothing. I think I was just young, motivated, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it started. obviously having the full-time job, I was very green. Like I was young. I still had a really big ego, which I shouldn't have, because I was, you know, I wasn't worth anything, right? So I
Yeah.
shouldn't have had an ego. But yeah, I mean, that's when I started. And then the projects that I would take on, again, they were Saturdays, Sundays is kind of when I would complete them. And then obviously I banked on snow removal. I remember I thought snow removal was going to be kind of like
Your ticket.
my ticket winner,
Yeah.
because when I first started at U Motors, they were always like, you know, your spring, summers, and some of the falls are your busy months, and then winter it's completely dead. And so I was like,
Sure.
okay, well maybe I can spend more time doing snow during the off season. And I remember the first year doing that. That's when I had my skid. I went and bought that skid from Dane, and then I was in a mini loader with the Glacier Boys. They put me in one, and we put my two skids on the same route, so we were all together. Um, and I remember I was gone like 4 days at a time. And Nate, my general manager, the day that I came back, I fucking eyes were bloodshot. I made it in at like 9:30. We usually start at 9 and we were done at 6. And I got there and he looked at me and he goes, "Get in my office." I'm like, "Oh God, like what's this about?" And then prior, and I was like, now if I'm gone during snow, like it could be 2-3 days.
Yeah.
So they were aware of it. But I remember going into the office with Nate, the general manager, and then Matt was my sales manager at the time. They were both like crossed their arms, kind of like shaking their head. And I was like, I just want to sleep at this point. And I remember they chewed me out. They're like,
Really?
they're like, "Luke, this is unacceptable. Like you either kind of pick a path. Either you're here or you're there. Like there's customers coming in and trying to get answers from you." And which at the time I was like, well, I give all of them my cell number, so they could have called me.
For sure.
So, but they're like, they're looking for answers. They want to buy this from you. A couple other, the sales guys are taking care of your customers. So it was kind of like a make or break moment where it's like,
Yeah.
you're either here or not. So I think that was kind of a good lesson to where I was like, okay, I need to build a system. So that obviously happened. It worked well the rest of the winter. That spring is kind of when I started taking on some bigger projects, and I was still by myself, again, still doing the weekends. So I was like, okay, well, Saturday, Sundays dedicated. When I would sell a boat, I'd obviously have to deliver them. And at this point I had my pickup that was wrapped black iron. And so when I would deliver these boats, people would be like, "Did you borrow somebody's truck to deliver this?" Or like, what? And I'm like, "No, I actually own that. And after I'm done here, I got to go grade a guy's yard back in Fargo." So it started to get a little conflictive at that point.
Yeah. What were some of the bigger jobs that you had mentioned? Like when you started realizing like, wait, these are a little bit bigger. Were they grading jobs or land managing jobs or?
Yeah, there was grading, there was some land management jobs, and then that's kind of when we transitioned into like rock retaining walls.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of people offering that service at the time, and I remember that's kind of when we built my website at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, we were talking about it, because that's when kind of you had started as well.
Yeah. And shout out to Phaser. It's our 3-year anniversary today, our birthday or whatever you call it. So yeah, because that would have been, I remember you had reached out in November and you were going to be our very first client.
Yep.
And then I got the call. I was like the third person to know.
Yep. So that was that following. So that would have been 2019 summer, obviously still on my own, coming into the fall, kind of banking on snow again. I remember that's when we were kind of having the conversation. I was like, "Luke, I need a website. I kind of want to build this." And what was it, like a week or 2 weeks after we had that conversation?
Yeah.
Boom, Riley and I are pregnant. We weren't married. We had been dating. I think we had been dating for like two years at the time.
Yeah.
So really early on, really young. And I remember that call, and yeah, you were the third person to know.
Yeah, I felt honored, but at the same time, I was like, damn, it sucks because this is our first client.
This is my first client. He's back. Because I remember the conversation. I was like, "Luke, I don't know if I can do this. I might have to sell my stuff." And I remember I told my cat sales guy too about it. And he was like, "Luke, I think you should probably hang on." And I did. But then that winter is when COVID hit. So 2020 is kind of when I remember I was in a loader and people kept making those memes about the coronavirus and how Corona was like paying to have it called like the Bud Light virus or something. And I didn't think anything would really become of it, because I was like, it's overseas, whatever. That spring, obviously shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
I was still, I was still on my own at that time.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I was still on my own at that time. Again, just doing weekend projects, still full time at U Motors. But that's when there was like a big transition period in, buyer spending, to where like U Motors side was so busy because everybody wanted, boats, they wanted four-wheelers, they wanted side-by-sides.
Yeah, something to do outside.
Yeah, because they couldn't go anywhere. So that was like a huge shift to where, I'll talk numbers. Like my first year, I think I made like 50 grand with selling, but then after that, your income basically just exploded. So I was like, I can't give this up. So I kept doing that, obviously through that year into the fall. And then that's when Dylan and I had kind of started to talk. And then obviously that spring he came on full time. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, and then, most people should know the story from then. Basically took Dylan on. And then from there, that's when Black Iron really started to take off in the bigger projects, and we took on more people, and now we're here. But yeah, I know they're like one of the main questions people ask me, and they still don't understand. Like when Riley, my fiance Riley, she used to work at a home builder in town. And I remember her coworkers asked her, they're like, well, if Luke does this dirt thing, why is he still at U Motors? Why is he still doing this? And the simplest answer is, I was making ungodly money at U Motors.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't give it up. And it honestly helped us grow. And obviously that's probably, some people are like, oh, that's greedy to say, or, you're double dipping or whatever. But I was like, I don't care. It's working. So,
well, and my thing on that too is like, it's not like the grass is greener when you go full time, because Black Iron was growing, and like these things were happening, were rolling. Your job at U Motors, like technically you were growing because your income was growing. You're growing as like a sales professional, and it's like, why not stay there? I mean, looking at it now, especially, I don't see any downside to like staying there. But I think the big ticket and the big key to that was there had to be some flexibility at your job, because there was stuff that popped off all the time, I'm sure, of just you having to head out to a client, or you having to go fix something or check something out. But that role of like the sales role, it probably helped that you were a little more free flowing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I mean, shout out to, them for allowing me to have, some of that freedom, to where they were very relaxed. And again, the sales manager that I had was fantastic. He was so supportive of what I was trying to do. And, I remember, this is probably bad to say, but there was multiple nights he went through kind of a tough divorce. And I remember he would stay at the shop. He would sleep in a pontoon, and it was tough on him. So I remember a couple nights we would go like way after hours at like 9 p.m, and we would just drink in the showroom, which is probably not good. But like, I remember we both had to call Ubers to get home multiple nights, because like we were stumbling. We had the most fun and like the best conversations. So that is something I'll always remember. But yeah, he, like, from those conversations, I think he kind of understood, what my passions were, because I just poured my heart out to this guy.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge benefit for him to be supportive on the back end. I just have to be very upfront and communicate with him what was going on. I had to be, that's honestly, I learned how to schedule, how to prioritize time, and make sure if somebody was coming in to look at things, I had to make sure I had enough time to, coordinate that, make sure the guys had everything that they needed, and so forth. So that was huge.
Yeah. And shout out to you guys for grabbing Ubers, because I mean, I love that too. I've had many jobs where we've done that. We've stayed late in the office, or we've stayed late, worked at, for a minor league baseball team. Many nights we'd stay late and just like go hit BP, like a few drinks in and stuff. But, it's like, that's like where you can really connect with your manager or your boss. And yeah, let's get on the same page, especially in sales. If you can get on the same page and we're like, hey, the more you sell, the more we're going to make, the more you're going to make, the more we're just going to have a great time and be happy. And That's why I just love sales so much. And the great thing about business is it's all sales, and it's all people, relationships, and just like providing that value. So I think, yeah, the lessons and the work you've put in at U Motors has just been invaluable, and just building up the businesses from there. But it's just crazy that, you went that long, and
Yeah.
it's very, very impressive. So that's why, we had to shoot this bonus podcast episode, because we had to let everyone know, like, for one, obviously give you some insight on your story, but two, quit complaining. Sometimes, some people, they think they've got it very tough, but I think it is good to show that there are other ways to do things. It doesn't have to be just this one street you have to go down. And that just shows, I mean, you get creative. I mean, you've got the dirt bags, you've got a couple excavation companies, you've got, I know, even other businesses besides construction going on. So it's just cool to see, like, when push comes to shove, like, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, well, and that's just the entrepreneur spirit. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. Honestly, I didn't know shit about business. And obviously, I went to school for business at the tech college I went to, and I didn't learn a whole lot. And I'll accredit it to my sales manager again. He owned, actually, it's weird how it kind of works, but like U Motors kind of bred entrepreneurs. Matt, he owned, or my sales manager, I don't know if I'm supposed to say his name or not, but he owned a bar. He bought a bar in Iowa where he was from when he was 20 years old. And he had owned it, and I think he sold it in like 2021, but it was super cool because I got to listen to like his stories and how he did it. Obviously, he had a partner, and Matt was full-time U Motors when he still owned and operated this bar. So I mean, yeah, it was just really cool, and the support system was huge. But yeah, definitely learned a lot, and I think that's why I know the companies that I have are going to be so successful, just because of those traits that and I'm just talking myself here, from that different company, right?
Yeah. Do you think, and maybe this is why we're so amped up and juiced about the dirt bags, is because we went through very similar beginnings with our businesses, of like just kind of grinding it out and figuring it out. And we're still, it does sometimes feel like you're on an island and you're alone in some places. But I think personally, I think that's why I'm so jacked up about dirt bags, is because we're giving people of all sizes and in the construction industry, like, a platform to go listen to, but also something to learn from. And like, we definitely don't know everything, but we try our best to bring on the people that do know more than we do, and then like extract that from them in like a below surface level type of conversation.
100%. And the fun thing about it is too, I think the dirt bags is so different because it's such an uncommon way of learning, right? What other place can you go? And I know we both done it before, where we're both like, Luke, I'm kind of drunk on this podcast. Maybe we should stop. I don't know another place where you can do that. And people are like, hell yeah, that's super cool. Whether it's, people like us listening, there's big corporations that have reached out to us because they're impressed. There's colleges that want you to speak. They want us to speak. So, I mean, it's just a different way of trying to bring value to the dirt world, like you had said.
Yeah. And there's obviously somewhat of a line, but it is important too, to just be yourself and be your personality. Like, I don't say things that I wouldn't say otherwise, and so I think just knowing that you don't need that filter, I think really helps our guests as well, and helps you. I know you let it fly quite a bit, and I think that's perfect. Yeah. And so I'm in this, marketing agency group, and one of the guys he's just killing it right now. I forget his niche, but it's like remodeling or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but I haven't taken vacation in 2 years. Like, I just, every day I get home from work, I just want to have like a big glass of bourbon. I'm like, dude, you need a podcast where you can drink and it's like accepted and not, and you just, that's what we do. And we love it. Cause then it blurs that balance of like, dude, I'm just having a blast, but we're technically doing business right now with everyone listening, with the education stuff. And I'm like, dude, you got to get a podcast where you can drink, and it'll be a lot of fun.
You'll be good.
Cause then
or get a podcast you can listen to and drink with.
Yeah. Cause then it's not like, cause you don't want to be in like the, I don't know, like the downer where you're just drinking just because you need to feel something. Like, you want to do it like for fun and like have a good time and have a drink with others and like share that. But yeah, you don't want to get into the just drinking by yourself because you work so hard and that kind of stuff. So
Yep,
yeah, I told him get a podcast like the Dirtbags. It's the greatest thing.
Yeah. And that's probably a good time to clarify. You or I don't have a drinking problem. We do a podcast every 2 weeks, and that's probably the only time I have a couple.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go out or wherever for dinner, I'll have a couple, but I mean, we're not alcoholics. We do it just because that's the brand of the podcast too.
Yeah. I think if I gave an inside look at my life, it would be just basically Monday nights when we record. It's just like, that's my drinking.
Yep. I can imagine your recycling bin, and I bet it's just LaCroix and Work Zone coffee.
Dude, yeah. Shout out Work Zone too, by the way. I mean, they're keeping me going. But yeah, dude, I usually reserve my drinking for like every 2 weeks. We got our podcast. I'll put down 1 or 2 glasses. I'm like, all right, this is feeling good. But other than that, man, it's just like maybe a bachelor party or maybe, I don't know, college reunion or something. But I try and I don't know. I'm in bed by 9:30 every night. So it's not that crazy.
Same. Yeah. There's some nights where Ryan and I are in bed at like 8 because Lila is on a spurt to where she likes to wake up at like 4:35 right now. So, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And we've got, because now that we're getting busier with the Dirtbags, we're starting to schedule out a few more podcasts and get a little bit busier with that. So I know next week we've got 2 back-to-back, and they're pretty big podcasts. And yeah, they're very big. And so I'm like, okay, like what are we drinking on the first one? Like, how do we get warmed up and all that? Because you definitely don't want to be a mess.
No, yeah. Do we have to do like half water, half whiskey or something just to get us through? Because that'll probably be like a 4-hour stint.
Yeah. And it will be sitting, talking, having a good time. I mean, it definitely doesn't suck. I would say that like it's great. And then shout out to Brandon again. I mean, Luke and I don't have to sit there and edit everything. So in my opinion, we get to do the fun part. We get to talk, banter, have a couple drinks, and
Brandon makes us look good.
He does his best. He has to do some work, but he does his best to make us look good, and he does a great job. So it goes back to the original mission of why we started the Dirtbags is, delivering that organic, relaxed content that people actually want to hear, diving in deep, but delivering it in a way that's like consumable. Because yes, we could sit here for 4 hours and just banter and go back and forth, but you're not going to get anything from it. So we want to have a clean website, actual resources you can get, podcasts that get the point across, but also are very relatable and fun. And I also have guests on that people want to hear from. And I think that's been a game changer for us.
And I think having a podcast that's not so monotone, that actually has some, I'll call it some flair within the conversations to where people actually enjoy listening to it. I know there's a lot of them that I used to love to listen to now I'm like, it's so stale. Like it's probably some really good information, but I have to literally keep my eyes open or my fucking ears open to even get to that point.
Excuse me. Yeah. I think you have to be, you got to keep people on their toes too. And I think as a podcast host, I mean, it makes it even more fun because it's sometimes, because yes, you want to do a lot of preparation, and we do a ton of research and preparation before, but we also don't like write down our questions word for word, because I think there's too much preparation you can go into. What was that?
Too scripted.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of it's just like going with the flow of the conversation, but also, and Luke, you and I talk about this a lot, but how do we get more out of the guest or whoever we have on? And how do we, okay, yes, they start talking about their fleet, but okay, how did you get that?
How'd you get there?
Yep. Let's talk dollars and cents. And I know the listeners appreciate that a ton, because those are the messages we get. It's like, that was great, but can we dive in deeper? Or can you do a podcast episode on that topic? And it's like, I think it's just our job to try and get as much out as possible in like a way that's not, rude.
Yeah. Well, you're expressing the takeaways, right? There's obviously takeaways in every podcast, but you have to emphasize those too. Yeah. So speaking of emphasizing takeaways, I know you kind of asked that question before we hopped on. But like takeaways from you motors that I know that if anybody's kind of or if they don't know like where they want to be, and if they want to go into like different industries, I'm going to plug sales. Get a job in sales, because it doesn't matter what industry you are always going to be a salesperson. And there's shitty salespeople and there's really good salespeople. And I feel like the better salesperson you are, doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a dirt guy, but I'm still selling myself to people. You know, I told you of an instance today that happened, to where you have to learn to read people's conversation types. And I feel like sales is a really good place to start on learning that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, and I'll just call it success, but, you know, your success with Black Iron and your businesses, it didn't come from just, oh, we hired Phaser and they took it over and they just, they do everything for us. It's not even close to that. But, you know, it's you as a business owner, like continuously going out, shaking hands, like walking in the door. Cause was it a GC today? Like a new one that you hadn't seen?
Yep.
Walked in the door.
I've seen him, but I've never talked to him. Yep. It was weird. I was driving and we just bought a lowboy trailer, and the trailer shop that it was by, I was going to pick up the title from. And I drove by and I had never really like known where they were. I've seen their stuff around, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh shit, I should, see, let me check my LinkedIn. Let me see if there's anybody in town that I can connect with or match with, lo and behold.
Don't say match.
Yeah. Don't say match. Yeah, connect. Lo and behold, there was two guys right away that I, connected with. And I was like, let me stop by. I want to give these guys cards. So obviously after I was done with the trailer shop, I swung in there, going through the front door, looked at the front desk. It was, dim, nobody was there. And there was a guy coming in behind me. And he comes in and he goes, hey, anything I can help you with? And I told him why I was there. I said, hey, I was driving by and I just wanted to drop off some cards. I connected with two of your PMs here earlier on LinkedIn and just kind of wanted to tell them a little bit more what we're about, who we are, that type of thing. And it ended up being the owner of the general contractor firm. And so I was like, when he like told me that, because I kind of went on a tangent of like, Black Iron, Western, what we do, Cole as a partner in Western, what he does. And I was like, I apologize. I didn't mean to really kind of run off there. And I, what's your name and what do you do? And he goes, well, my name is so-and-so. And well, I own the place. And it took me back. I was like, oh, fuck. Yes, shit. Here we go.
Let's go.
So he took me into his office and we bullshitted for a while, but it's weird how instances like that can happen just in the most random spots and the most like out of place times.
Yeah. And it's just like, we were talking about this before too, but he's probably been working with people his whole life. Contractors and you name it. He's just had those relationships. But then to see somebody that's young and ambitious, and you're not asking to, hey, give me $1 million worth of work. You're just introducing yourself. This is what we do. This is, if at anything, toss us on your bid list. We'll see if we can help you out. And just for him to see that and see you in there, it gets me pumped up too, because if I were him and I saw that, I'd be like, hell yeah, at the very least, let's toss him on the list. And if he over delivers, like, absolutely, we're going to give him some more work. So, I'm so glad you brought that up, because a lot of people just think it's one thing or there's one marketing tactic to do in your business, but there's so many. It's this omnipresence of, okay, you walking in, you having these sweet business cards, you slap one of those on the table, you shake his hand.
Should we sound one here really quick? Oh, man.
That was beautiful. I don't know if you guys could hear that. Do one more. I think it fell.
Oh, hold on. I got to get a little angle. You ready? I'll turn the mic.
It doesn't sound good.
Let's try it one more time. Hopefully they can hear it. Either way, it's metal, whatever.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. But it's the whole thing. And, you going in, having a good handshake, saying, just talking about what you do, but also asking the questions of what they do. Like, how can we help? And then, he's probably going to check out your website. His PMs are going to see that you connected with him on LinkedIn. They're going to see what you're doing for your business, for your industry, all these things. So having that full circle effect, that omnipresence marketing is what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Then I'm sure in 3 weeks, one of them's going to be driving. They're going to see black excavator or black skid or whatever it is with your branding on it. It just, you want it all to kind of connect. Correct. And good for you, man, for never settling. I think that's a big thing is people are like, okay, yeah, we're at $1 million in revenue. Like we can just take our foot off the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I always think, even if you don't want to increase your revenue, like why not keep your foot on the gas to like increase your margins or to do the work that you want to do, or to, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, like you can always improve it.
Oh, 100%. And there's 2 points that you kind of brought up. The first point being now not having that safety net of the U Motors employment. Now I really need to dive into our numbers, and I'm going to trim the fat. What is making us money? What is not making us money? Taylor said it really well, to where you are not married to anything other than, making money for your business. Your business is what keeps you alive. If there's something that's not making you money, it's not personal, whether it's a person or a machine or whatever it may be, but you got to get rid of it. There's no point in keeping it. So that's going to be my next project over the couple months, and try to figure a lot of that out. So
yeah, and he had that good example of winter time. Like his employees are always like, hey, are we on for winter? Are we on? He's like, guys, I will let you know. I have no idea right now. And it's more of just, it is a numbers game. And he's like, I love how blunt he was with it, because he's like, I'm not going to let my family business that's been going on for decades fail because I tried to keep a few people on for the winter season. And I love it, because I think a lot of people are scared to say that, because, they care about people so much, but also it is kind of just a matter of fact. It's like when you rephrase it like that, it's like, would you let your business fail if it meant keeping somebody on for that season? It's like,
no, not a chance.
Right. Yeah.
So and that, honestly, that takes some balls for him to say that, because there are a lot of people that really try to people please and beat around the bush, but it's so true. And I think he's done a really good job too, as far as like his brand, to where it's not a competition, I don't think, to get employees, but it almost draws people back in and is like, well, I want to be part of what he's doing. If I've got to, if I've got to do something in the meantime to, supply myself, whatever, so be it. But as soon as he's back up and running, I want to prove myself to where maybe I could be more valuable, or I could stay on through the winter, or show my skills this way, So I think he's done a fantastic job on that.
Yeah. And if you want to complain about, that one person not having the job, it's like, okay, there were 4 employees 4 years ago, and now there's 20 some. I mean, we're going the other way here. We're arguing about the wrong thing. Like we're adding jobs, like he's adding jobs. So it makes a lot of sense. Like, we're all building this engine, and then having people come in, and if they're happy, they're going to stay. And if they're not, they're going to leave. And personally, I think what we've seen, you, myself, and Taylor, of course, is just, if you build a good brand and exciting culture and future plans, I mean, you're going to have people that want to work with you.
Yep. The second point to that then is, working on, not in your business. To explain that a little bit, like when I was at U Motors, I was working on my business, right? I was not part of any of the day-to-day. I was, when it was slow, I would sit at my computer and I send invoices, I'd create schedules, whatever. But like to the business development piece, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, to where Phaser's not a one-stop, like, hey, you want to do 2 million in revenue? You're doing 1 million? Yeah, sign us up. We'll build you a website. We'll get you to that 2 million.
Right.
You have to get your boots on the ground. You have to business develop your business. You are the salesperson for your company. And I feel like a lot of people don't put in that time, or maybe the system isn't quite there that allows them to, but it's their responsibility to figure out how they can do that.
Yeah, I know Aaron, I can't remember which episode it was, but he talked a lot about that, Aaron Witt, about, hey, like as a business owner, like you do need to like pull yourself back a little bit and get your head above water and look around and be like, okay, where are we going next? Or what's our next play? Or what's our next strategy? Who are our people? What's our culture? And a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't love that idea. They love being the operator. And I think there are ways around that. You can bring somebody in, or maybe it's your significant other that kind of handles more of the business admin, business development. So I think there's definitely ways around it where there are true operators out there that will always be operators and that won't ever change. But I do think it's very important to, pull yourself back, take a look around, work on the business, not in the business. For me, it's 1 day a week. Thursdays are my CEO days. I no matter what, I just try and cancel all my meetings and I am working on the business, because then we can make pivots. We can think about podcast topics. We can take a look at our finances, trim the fat, things like that. Also add some fat. I mean, we don't talk enough about that. We do some things that a lot of businesses would say is stupid, is very questionable, is a waste of money, but we're in it for the long haul too. So I just call it adding fat. Like there's definitely some cuts we need to make, but at the same time too, I'm like, I'm not planning for year 3. I'm planning for year 5, year 10, and where we want to be.
No, definitely. There was a guy in Fargo. He was probably he was easily probably one of the wealthiest guys in Fargo. He was our neighbor at the lake. And I remember we would have him over. My parents love the guy, super nice guy. And the first thing he would say, doesn't matter who you were, but you would like, hey, how you doing? His name was Ace. Ace, how you doing? How you been? He goes, good. And then he'd look at you and he'd say, are you writing down your goals? And like you wouldn't be talking about anything about goals. But that was the first thing that he would ask you. And you're like, no, we're here to have some steaks, but do you want me to write down my goals? But he was so religious on writing down his goals.
Yeah.
And like he was, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, write those down. Cause and I remember I got into him one night. We were out on the water. We had a couple cocktails in us. And again, whenever I have a couple cocktails, I just fully unloaded on him on questions.
Yeah.
And I remember he was like, Luke, you got to visualize, what you're doing. The only way you can visualize it is if you're writing them down. If you're writing them down, then you see them. I said, oh, see right there. Bingo. Luke's writing them down.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Got it posted up.
Dude, it like straight up. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then I remember, and for anybody that hasn't, and I don't know, this is kind of controversial as far as like the belief side, but he told me to watch. It's called The Secret. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Watch it. After we get off the podcast, I want you to watch it and I want your feedback about it. I'm not going to say what I thought of it. I'm not going to say what it's about. I just want you to watch it and let me know what you think, because it had some really good points, and I'm not going to say which ones, because again, it is a little,
dude, you're giving me too much already.
Yeah, it is a little controversial, depending on what your beliefs are. But all I'm saying is watch it. So
yeah, no, huge. I mean, I'm not like, I shouldn't say that. I struggled with writing my goals down. I think I was always goal oriented, but I'm not like super analytical. But what I've learned is what gets measured gets accomplished, and write down your goals. And so this year I've been working hard on that, is just writing them down, because then I have to look at it every day. And I'm very competitive. So I think I just hate, losing. And so I look at it, I'm like, damn, I should just get that done and cross it off. But if anyone's looking for a little bit of framework, I have a quick tip here. I use 6 different categories for my goals. It helps me break it out, and I just do one goal for each one. Keeps it super simple. I've got physical goals, relational goals, career goals, financial goals, environmental goals, and spiritual goals. For me, those 6, it just kind of helps me break it out. It can be anything you want inside that, but that way I'm like working on one of those 6 throughout the year. And and I know if I complete all 6 of those, I had a pretty damn good year.
Really good year. Then it's time to fucking draw bigger goals if you're completing those in 1 year, right?
The BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. You got to have one of those.
You got to have it to where it almost scares the shit out of you.
Oh yeah, for sure. But, and then, I mean, I'm going to talk about that here, because in 2 weeks, I'm trying to hit my BHAG, and we're a little far away from it. So after, if I hit it, I'm not saying I'm not going to hit it, but I'm going to do my best to hit it. But after, I'm going to talk a little bit about it and why it's so important to have one, because what I'm seeing is that even if we fall short, we came so far, and it's just like, set your sights high, because if you fall a hair short, you're going to be pretty high up still.
Yep, definitely. And maybe I don't know, for people listening, maybe I should rephrase. Obviously the guy had a lot of wealth to him, but that wasn't the important side of it. He was just a very, very good family friend. He had a lot of information, and that's why he had passed away here this last year. But yeah, great guy. So I'll clarify that up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not all about money. I mean,
Correct.
and that's why like the categories help, like relational goals, like
Mhm.
different things like that. It's there's more to life than just money. But if
Yep.
we are talking about business and we're talking about financials, like might as well dive into that. So,
Definitely. I agree. Well, I
but
think that kind of recaps about what this episode was about, Luke. It was, again, I'm fully self-employed. The dirt bags are going to be better than ever. We got more time, and our guests are only, I mean, we've had some phenomenal guests. I shouldn't say our guests are getting better and better, but I feel like our conversations are going to get better and better because you and
yeah,
I kind of understand what people want now.
yeah, and it helps. I mean, the only way we can understand what people want is like the feedback we get, and I think everyone's been very good about that, of just like shooting us a message on Instagram, shooting us a text, whatever, and just saying like, awesome episode, it'd be cool in the next one if you could dive more into X or Y, and just it really helps us because yeah, Luke, you and I started in February. We've done a few podcasts before that, but it's like, hey, the only way you can get better is if you get started, you get rolling, and you figure it out from there. This whole Dirtbags University thing, we could sit on it for another year, 2 years, and try and perfect this whole course and everything. But we're like, nah, we're gonna do this in 2 days and
Yep.
figure it out.
Right. Yep. And I think it's going to go really well. And I think the future ones are going to go even better just because we're going to learn what was good and what wasn't good on them. So,
Yeah, who knows? Might start our own college.
yeah,
Dirtbags University. I mean, online tuition could be a thing.
honestly, you've been asked to speak at multiple colleges, Luke. So, I mean, you could be Professor Egerbrand. So,
Oh, I don't know about that. We could have our own Dirtbags University football team or something. I
there
mean,
we go. Can you mow it in your backyard like you did it in grade
oh
school
yeah, I
for
think
your
the
birthday?
goalposts are still up there, so we could have team practices and we'll have dirtbags from all around like the country like fly in and just to get some practices going,
Yeah,
and yeah, it'd be fun.
I'm in. I'm in.
But cool. Well, got a little sidetracked at the end, but that's what we do. So
Yep.
that's a wrap for this bonus episode. We've got Dirtbags University. We're gonna jump on that here. Keep up shooting us messages, following our podcast, listening to the
Recommendations.
episodes, recommendations. We appreciate it. And let's keep this train moving.
Let's fucking do it, dirtbags. Cheers, Luke.
All right. Cheers.